guys, it's Reagan and welcome back to another video. Today's video is very needed. Despite the fact that it always makes me sad to do one of these, but it also makes me feel refreshed, a bit of spring cleaning. That's right, today I'm going to be doing a book unhaul video. I will say by the time this video goes up, I'll have already given away, donated, or sold a few of these books that I'm about to show off. But before we dive into the books themselves, first a word from this video sponsor, which is Pango Books. Listen, I've talked about Pango so much on my channel because I truly love them. Whether you're buying or selling, this is truly the app perfectly designed for book lovers. But if you're not familiar, Pango Books is an app that you're able to access via Android or iOS, and it essentially allows you to buy or sell used books. It's super easy to list the books if you're wanting to unhaul just like me. You basically take a picture, denote the name and the quality of the books, and then once somebody purchases it, Pango automatically sends you a USPS shipping slip right to your email. They make the process of selling so seamless. I do have a storefront on Pango Books and I have sold quite a few books in the past. It was so simple and easy. So if you're looking to do a bit of spring cleaning, selling your books via Pango is amazing. And of course, on the flip side of that, you're also able to do some incredible used book shopping. I have purchased so many amazing titles directly from Pango Books. They've all come so quickly right to my door, and I've also got some incredible deals. It's really easy to search the app by genre or title. You're also able to follow specific storefronts if there's a seller that you often find many titles from. You can follow books, track prices. It's all so easy, and they're also constantly adding new features. All that being said, I love Pango Books so much, and I actually have a very special offer for you guys. If you use the code PERUSE5, you're actually able to save $5 off at checkout on any book purchased through the app. And because the books are used, you're able to get them generally at really great prices. So this is almost like getting a free book via the app. If you download it, sign up, you can use this code. But yes, big shout out to Pango Books for partnering with me for this video, but let's go ahead and dive into the books that I'm going to be unhauling. Again, unhauling books is usually pretty difficult for me. I especially have this issue where I hate getting rid of books that I have not read yet. Holding on to TBR books is just my personality, I guess. So most of the books I'm going to be chatting through today I have read or started, though I did try to cull down my TBR section, especially for genres that I just don't reach for that often. That being said, let's just go ahead and start showing them off. The first two books I'm going to show off are a YA fantasy series, and that is the Last Magician series by Lisa Maxwell. This is book 2 and book 3 within this particular world. I've actually read the first two books in this YA fantasy series, and I really did enjoy them. It's a turn of the century, kind of gritty New York setting following a group of underground magicians, and they're kind of fighting for their right to survive and also trying to cause revolution within New York City itself. It's a cool concept, and everyone has a different type of power, and I also believe there's elements of time travel within this too. That being said, I read the first two books so many years ago, and I just don't remember exactly what happened, so I don't feel confident I can just jump immediately into book 3, and I just don't really feel like I have the time to commit to rereading these books as they are rather long. So I thought, you know, let's just pass them along to a new and different reader who'd be able to get to these right away, because I do really like these books, and you know, if I want to read them again in the future, I can always repurchase them, but for now, I'm unhauling. The next book I'm going to be unhauling is For the Wolf by Hannah Whitten. This is another book that I liked but didn't love, and given my general feelings towards this, I just don't know if I'm going to be chomping at the bit for reading book 2, which is coming out later this year. On the surface, this is a book that kind of has everything I usually love, a folklore fairy tale-esque retelling with sisters and romance in an enchanted forest, but unfortunately I just found this book to be in the middle. Like, I'm just not obsessed with it. I don't even hate it very strongly, but I also just don't know if I'm going to be reading the next one, and I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be rereading this, so I thought I would also pass this along. In the same vein, the next two books I'm going to be getting rid of are two steamy and fun Halloween romances. I really enjoyed reading both of these last Halloween, but I just know I'm not going to be rereading them, so I just feel like it's better if they go to a new home. The first is Paybacks, a Witch by Lana Harper. This is a queer, witchy romance story kind of set in a small town near Halloween, of course, and basically two witches begin to work together to kind of enact revenge on a past lover, but in the process of doing this, they start falling for each other. Cute, fun, highly entertaining, would recommend it, but just not one I'm going to be picking up again. Also, I have The Ex-Hex, which is another really fun second chance romance set in a small town during Halloween. It's also about witches and magic and ley lines and power. It's super cute, very steamy, really enjoyed it, but again, not gonna reread it. Another book I read but just kind of thought was okay was Portrait of a Scotsman by Evie Dunmore. I love Evie Dunmore's other books that I have checked out, but this one just didn't perfectly land for me. Given that reason, I thought I would pass it along, but I do love the League of Extraordinary Women. It's like a historical romance series that kind of focuses on a new main character with each book. If you like historical romance, especially steamy historical romance, I would check out her writing. I particularly like the first one, Bringing Down the Duke. This one is more about a banking heiress getting forced into a marriage with her family's biggest rival. There's lots of talk about the economy. I just felt the pacing was a little boring. It was a little off for me. Still cute and fun, but just by no means one I feel like I need to have on my shelf. Next up, I have The Chosen and the Beautiful by Nouveau. This is a queer retelling of The Great Gatsby. I thought it was really lyrical. I also really enjoyed the atmosphere, but I don't really know what I was thinking. Like, I don't even really love The Great Gatsby. And I actually in a lot of ways enjoyed this book more than the original Great Gatsby because I thought it had some new interesting elements, particularly its use of magic and the queer relationships present in it. I'm not gonna reread this because I don't like The Great Gatsby that much, and this is a very true retelling of this story. So I just know someone else is going to cherish this a lot more than me, so I'm gonna pass it on. But it is a good book. Like, this is a great book. The Great Gatsby and me, it's just not my fave, you know? Next up, I have Tithe by Holly Black. I don't even know how I ended up with this copy because I know I recently unhauled the entire bind-up of this trilogy. I actually have read Tithe. I thought it was very bad. I love Holly Black's writing, and I wish I read this when I was growing up. I feel like in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, this would have been it, but revisiting it nowadays, it just really wasn't for me. It's honestly kind of like a time capsule. It's full of a lot of hilarious tropes that were obviously very popular for the time, but I think I've just moved past this series. I didn't even realize I owned this because I already unhauled the entire series of this, but I somehow still have the first book, so I'm also going to be getting rid of this. Next two books are two very popular books that I know a lot of people love, and I've also gotten a lot of comments about people being excited for me to read them, which is why I've held on to them for so long. But I honestly took stock of my TBR this year. I've just decided to get rid of both of these books just because I know they house a lot of very graphic and disturbing content, and I just don't know if mentally I'd be able to read and enjoy these books for those reasons. This is not to any hate against these books. Both of them are incredibly lauded. It's just a personal decision. The first one is A Little Life by Hanya and Yanagihara. I've posted about this on Instagram and TikTok. I just don't think this book is for me. I have watched videos of people watching this and it doesn't look fun, and I just don't know. I can understand why people really love this, but the more I sit with this story, the more I'm just ready to let it go and pass it on to a home that wants to enjoy that pain. But I'm not that person. And then the second book is Black Leopard, Red Wolf by Marlon James. This one is really hard for me to let go, but I have gotten quite a few comments mentioning how graphically disturbing this book can be, and I had done some separate research, and just looking at the content elements of this, I just don't think this is a book that I would want to read for those reasons. Again, this is really disappointing because I really want to read this because it does deal with African folklore. It's a fantasy story. I love high fantasy, but I think for those reasons, I'm going to pass it along as well. Next up is just a duplicate. I somehow ended up with two copies of this book, and that is Instructions for Dancing by Nicola Yoon. This is just an adorable sounding romance story following two characters that fall in love while learning to dance. And I also think there's like a fantastical element of this. Basically, our main character Evie is able to see how things and relationships will end in the beginning of the relationship itself, which makes it hard for her to want to commit herself to anything, understandably. But yes, it follows Evie as she meets X and they enter a dancing competition. It sounds so cute. I just obviously do not need 2 copies. I'm also going to be passing along my copy of Dan Brown's The Lost Symbol. This is a classic. I like this story. I like the show. I like the movie, obviously, but I just don't love the aesthetics of this book. Call me shallow, but I've just decided I'm going to pass it on. I don't really see myself rereading this anytime soon either, so I thought, you know, there's lots of lovers of this out in the world. I'm a fan, so let's give it to a good home. So that's the plan with this one. Next is a few books sent to me unsolicited by publishers, and I just don't see myself reading or rereading. The first hurts a little bit because I do adore it, and that is the Summer I Turned Pretty trilogy. I read this series freshman year of college, and it took over my life. I loved it so much, and I love Jenny Han's writing. I'm so looking forward to the adaptation and TV show, which is coming out, I want to say, later this year, but I just don't see myself revisiting this, and I almost like don't want to because I don't want to break how I felt about these when I read them for the first time, and I know if I read them as a 28-year-old versus as a 20-year-old, I'm going to view them a little differently, so I just kind of want to keep it in a time capsule. I also want to give these to someone who can read these for the first time and fall in love with it, because I just think this series is so fun. It basically follows a girl, and she grew up with these boys, and they would go to the beach every summer, and she's been in love with one brother her entire life, and it's basically about growing up and this sort of complicated relationship that occurs between all three. Love triangles galore. It also kind of does jump a bit forward in time, which I like. Jenny Han's writing is just so sweet, and I just love how she writes coming of age stories for girls, and anyway, I loved these when I read them. I also love these new cover designs. I think they're great. Check them out if you haven't, but yeah, I'm going to pass these on. And then the next book is The Witchhaven by Sasha Peyton Smith, and this is a YA fantasy story set at the turn of the century following a young witch. I am intrigued by this, but I just don't see myself getting to it anytime soon. I have enough books on my TBR that I add, that wild card sometimes just can't make it in, if that makes sense. So I hate that this would sit unread for so many years. That would likely happen on my bookshelf, so I would rather it find a good home, because I do love the idea of this. Like, I love witch stories, I love magic, I love historical fiction YA stories, but I also know I will not get to this book for years, so many years. And then the last set of books I'm just gonna quickly run through. I had to cull down my thriller stack on my bookshelf. I really enjoy mysteries, but I don't particularly read a lot of thrillers. So I said, Reagan, you got too many. Let's keep the ones that you're most excited to read, and let's just pass along the ones you just don't think you're gonna get to anytime soon. So that's what this stack of books is. The first is The Maidens, which honestly, this book has been featured on many end of the year did not like lists. So when I started to see it pop up there, I knew it might be a good one to find a new home or a new place for, especially because I don't read a lot of thrillers. I always want to make sure when I do pick one up, it's gonna knock me out of the park. So I'm gonna pass this on. And then the next two are both like neighborhood drama thrillers. The first one is The Neighbor's Secret, as well as The Collective, kind of like nosy neighbors getting into each other's business, sort of thriller, murder mystery, psychological situation. Then I have A Flicker in the Dark, which honestly just sounds scary. So I think this would be too scary for me, if I'm being honest. The last book I'm gonna unhaul is Everything We Didn't Say, which is sort of a small town, revisiting small town thriller about a woman who kind of left and now she's returning to try to make amends with her daughter. And I think some stuff kind of begins to bubble up from her past. Sounds intense, but I just know I'm not gonna be getting to it very soon. Alrighty guys, that is my book unhaul. Again, shout out to Pango Books for sponsoring this video. Again, use the code PERUSE5, which you're able to save $5 off your first order when you download the app and sign up. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you soon with another one soon. Goodbye!